Welcome to the Hard Money Talks podcast. My name is Lauren Gutman, and I am your host of this show. And today is our very first episode, and I'm so excited to have you a part of this show. I'm so excited about it. Today, I have a great first guest, and today we're going to be talking about a really hard money topic when you have to choose your children over your job. And that's what our guest is going to be talking about today. As a single mom of 4 children, I know that single parents, not just single parents, but parents in general, are often given the really hard decision of choosing their job over their kids. And that's just not a conversation that should ever be had, in my opinion. And so today we're going to unpack that. My guest, Shane Sams, is on the show, who's a good friend of mine, and I'm excited to have him as my very first guest on the Hard Money Talk show, because I really wanted to highlight this difficult money conversation when parents have to quit their jobs to take care of their kids. And what do you do from there? So Shane's going to talk about his story, about how he was forced to quit his job to take care of a situation that happened with his son. And I'm going to let him explain all of it, but I definitely think that you're going to find so much good information from this episode. So without further ado, let's go and talk to Shane. All right. Hey, Shane, thanks for being with us today.
I am so excited. I'm so excited to hang out with you, Lauren, because, man, every time we've hung out, it's been a blast.
It's
and I know
always
it's gonna be
a blast.
today. Yes.
It is always a blast, from, cigar shops to
podcasts to wherever the world takes us. That's right.
Wherever. So always glad to have a friend on the show. And today we're going to be having, such a good talk, I think. And your story, I think, will resonate with so many people, parents, just married couples, because I think a lot of people have had to have this like hard money decision in the past, like a hard choice. So we're going to be talking about your hard money choice today. Not just one. I think you've had a couple over the years.
Very many. They're starting to stack up a little bit. Actually.
Yeah. Right. I think all of us do. Right. If we take a look back of like, oh my gosh, like we've had a lot of choices we've had to make. So why don't we start off? Like I first heard your story. And to be honest, like when we were at FinCon and I was listening to your story, like I was tearing up a little bit, like as a mom, my mama bearness and me, wanted to jump in and save the day. So why don't you kind of start with who you are and what you do, and then jump into the story that I'm talking about.
Yeah. So my name is Shane Sams. I actually now host a couple podcasts at the Shane Sams Show, and a podcast called Flipped Lifestyle, that this company that I've built with my wife, where we help family-focused entrepreneurs start, build, and grow online businesses of their own, so they can make that income, which leads to freedom, baby. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And, but I was not always a podcaster. I actually used to be a school teacher in Southeast Kentucky. Used to be a football coach. That's what I did for my career. I mean, I was the classic on the railroad track to retirement. I was like, all right, 17 and a half more to go. I'm just like,
isn't that such a depressing thing? Like thinking 17 and a half years.
I got a funny story about that when I quit my job. I'll tell you here in just a second. So, my wife at the time, Jocelyn, she was also an educator. She was an elementary school librarian. I actually used to coach college football.
Okay.
And we were kind of down that route. My wife was a corporate. She used to sell commercial dishwashers. It was exciting.
Oh.
She went to trade shows and set up giant dishwashers for Applebee's to look at and think if they wanted to make a purchase.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I know, right? That's totally a thing. That's what she did for a living. But we actually realized, as I was chasing that college football dream, I was working 70 hours a week, 7 days, a week. And it's just a crazy grind to be able to make it in that industry. And my wife was working corporate. She was traveling to trade shows. So we were kind of like ships in the night there for a few years. Mm-hmm. And people would ask us like, what's it like being married? And I'd be like, I don't know. We don't see each other.
Was this this was before you had kids?
This was before we had kids, before we were school teachers, anything like that. And I actually got a job at Eastern Kentucky. I was working at West Virginia University, and this old coach named Bill Stewart came up to me and goes, "Oh, Shane, buddy, how you doing?" He looked like Dick Van Dyke, and that's how he talked. He was like, "Hey, Shane, buddy, how you doing? Come in here in my office. I want to talk to your son. I really like you and Jocelyn, man. I want to send you off to Eastern Kentucky. I said, launch you into your career, man, with some wise words, some advice." And he shuts the door behind him, and he always talked that way, like always. Mm-hmm. But when he sat down at his desk, he got dead serious, Lauren, and he looked me in my eye and he said, Shane, I really like you and Jocelyn. And I want to tell you something that I've never really told anybody else. I don't tell any of these other GAs running around here, these other coaches, these young bucks, because they're all, they're not always all married. They're all just chasing their dream. I don't want to mess their dream up. But I want to tell you something. My son is 10 years old, and I have been on the road recruiting for 3 years of his life. 3 years of his 10, I did not see him. And then he just looked at me and said, good luck at Eastern Kentucky. Never said another word to me the whole time I was there. And I think it was a warning to me that he was looking back at his career and his life, and he saw something in me and Jocelyn that he saw in him and his wife. And he was warning me to get out. And I did. That's why we went into teaching. Like I had a teaching degree, and Jocelyn went back to school and got her librarian degree so that we could work as teachers, be on the same schedule. So we thought we had figured out the American dream, right?
Right.
Be broke, but be together. That's what it was.
And
right?
both be educators and
both be educators.
Retirement.
That's right. We got retirement. We're working toward that. It's all good. We're all set. We got paid, nothing as teachers in Southeast Kentucky. We lived paycheck to paycheck, but we got paid on Friday and it ran out on Thursday. That was our life.
Right.
The whole time. It just always ran out early.
Yep.
Juggled. I'd probably still be on that railroad track if something had not happened to my son. Like most working parents, we used to use daycare for our kids. My son would go to one daycare in the morning. My daughter would go to another because she was really little at the time, a baby. And they didn't have like a baby facility in this other place. And that was our life. Just go to daycare, drop the kids off, go to work, come home, go to daycare, go to work.
What time were you getting up in the morning? I'm eager to know that. Oh my
gosh. It was like 5:30 or something. Yeah. I mean, it was crazy early because I had like a 30-minute commute, and so did Jocelyn, but we lived on opposite ends of the county, and counties in Kentucky are not small. So like we worked on opposite ends of the county. So she would go one way and I would go. We wouldn't even see each other in the morning because she had to leave before me.
That's the way my sister, one of my sisters is, she's an educator and her husband's an educator, and their kids, even when they were very little, like they'd all have to get up at like 5 a.m, go to different babysitters to get them off to school. And they worked in 2 totally different school districts, each 45 minutes apart.
And that's even worse because your days don't line up sometimes.
Their
like
days don't
line,
and they're still like that. I mean, the kids are older now, but when they were babies, I mean, the kids were up and out of the house by 5:30 in the morning. And I was
and everyone will always be like, but you get off at 3 o'clock. No, you don't. That's not how it works. Like at 3 o'clock, you got to have parking lot duty and bus duty. And then you got to go to football practice, or Jocelyn had to shelve 900 books in the library. So you're like getting home at like 7 p.m. Basically. Right.
And then you have like yearbook club, or you have to go to this. So you have to volunteer for this.
If you want to make that extra $500 a year, you got to volunteer for something,
right.
Work there. Or like, it was terrible at this school too, because we were forced to work the gates at sports we didn't coach. So like you'd have to wait at the school until like 7 for a JV soccer game. And you had to sit there and take money and sell Mountain Dews or something like that. Yeah, it was crazy. But there were perks. I'm not gonna say it was all bad. I mean, we had a good life. We had the 2.2 cars and 2.2 kids, and the above ground pool in the back. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. We were living it.
We were living the dream, baby. Yeah. Living the dream. And but one morning, what happened was, my son did not want to go into this daycare center. He just would not go get out of the car. He's like, I don't want to stay with daddy. And he's just freaking out. And I was trying to get him out of his car seat, and he had on one of those big puffy coats, so it was all impossible. And he goes, no, daddy, stay with daddy. And I'm like, I've got to go to work. I don't want to be late for work. What is going on? And out of nowhere, my son just said, she scares me. And I stopped and I said, who scares you? And he told me one of the names of the ladies in the daycare center. Now, I asked her, why does she scare you? And the only thing he could really verbalize at the time, at 3.5 years old or whatever he was she locks me in the bathroom and turns out the lights. And he couldn't tell me why or what he was doing, but he just says this out of nowhere. So
your stomach at that moment must have just like dropped.
Oh, I froze because I was like, what did he just say? It was kind of confusing, right? I'm like, what did he just say? And I said, what do you mean? He goes, she locks me in the bathroom and turns out the light. And I was like, for how long? And he goes, a long time. Now that was what gave me chills, is the way he said a long time. I didn't find out that morning exactly what happened, but we would find out later that the owner of this daycare, who is this sweet little old lady, my kids actually still consider her like a grandparent to this day. She sold it because she retired, and the people that came in changed all the personnel so fast, nobody really knew what was going on. And they hired a ton of unqualified people that were just should not have been keeping children. And it came out in the paper. There was a lot of other abuse going on. Like kids were being punished brutally, like draconian style in this place. Like one lady in the newspaper was sitting on kids with a beanbag chair. If they wouldn't comply, she would just throw them on the floor, put a beanbag chair on them, and sit on them until they would behave. And my son, what was happening, we found out later, was he was being punished for potty training accidents. So the lady who was keeping him didn't want to keep potty training accidents. So she was trying to scare the kids into not having them at school or at the daycare center. So Isaac, at least on one occasion, we know for a fact that the lady took off a pull-up and stuffed it in his nose like you would a dog, for potty training accidents. And on another occasion, or on many occasions, to punish him, to scare him, she would lock him in a bathroom, no windows, turn out the lights, and leave him in there for hours at a time. There was another kid that we found out later. One kid had a potty training accident, and she put him in his pull-up, his messy pull-up or underwear, whatever it was, and put him up on a table and goaded the kids into making fun of him. So this was chaos, like that was happening, and it happened so fast. There was nothing we could have done about it. We didn't know, right? Because this was the best daycare in town.
Yeah.
But in this moment, Lauren, I'm in like the parking lot, and I'm like, oh gosh, I got to be at work. What is my son saying? I don't want to leave him here because he's saying something's wrong. This feels weird, but like I got to also be at work because I've got like 30 high school juniors. I'm responsible for other kids, and I was really stuck. I tried to call my wife, couldn't get a hold of her. I tried to call my boss, couldn't get a hold of him. So I did the only thing I could think of at the time to cover all my responsibilities. I took Isaac to Anna Joe's daycare, the baby daycare. And there was a lady there that had kept Isaac, and she said, I'll keep him for a couple hours, but you can't leave him here all day. It's only for kids up to 2 years old, right? So I get in my car and I drive 100 miles an hour. Like I drove a 30-minute commute in like 15 minutes. And I got to my school, and my plan was to run upstairs, get someone to watch my class, and then ask my principal to leave so I could go back to Isaac and investigate and figure out what was happening. I go down, my boss is not there, but my supervisor was, the vice principal. And I told her the story that I just told you. I said, hey, my son said this. I don't know what's going on. I really have this fatherly intuition. Something's bad wrong. And I need to get the day off work right now, even though the day's already started, to go check on this. And my boss at the time, she leaned back, she listened, and she just said, no. She's like, look, your son's not in immediate danger right now. It's clear. And the day's already started. You can't get a sub. That's the rules. And I don't have time to watch your class. And I know your son needs you, but your job needs you too. And you're going to have to handle your personal problems after work. And I stood there. At first, I was like, well, there it is. That's it. I got to stay at work, you know? And then I found this like anger in me, like, no, you can't just stay here. Your son needs you. And like, who is this person to tell you that your job is more important than your child? I mean, I don't care if they give me a paycheck. I don't care if they give me health insurance. I don't care. I mean, like, no, my son needs me. Right. And if my job needs me, my job's going to have to wait. And I told her, I said, what happens if I leave? Because this is unacceptable. I'm not going to stay here. And she was like, you can be written up. You can be fired. Like, you have a legal responsibility. You're leaving other people's children. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to leave my child either. So I got up, walked out, and I went back to my son that day. And on the way back to him, Lauren, I looked at myself in the rearview mirror. I will never forget this moment in my life. And I caught my own reflection, and I was mad. I was just really, really angry. I was like, not angry at like the daycare worker, not angry at the situation. I was not angry at my boss. I don't know what in the world that was all about. Like, I think she was trying to teach me a lesson. Like, I'll teach this young man how to balance life and work. Right. But I was really mad at myself. I was mad at myself that I'd made the worldly trade. I had made the deal with the devil. You give me security. You make sure a paycheck shows up every 2 weeks. Give me some health insurance and give me retirement. And I don't care if I'm broke. I don't care. You just give me that little taste of security, and I'll trade my life away for it. And I promised myself in that car that I would never work for anybody else again. And that's what started me on my journey to find a way to create my own income.
Oh, you just gave me chills. You just gave me chills, because there's so many times in my life where I've looked at my situation and just been so grateful that I don't have to make that trade. You know, when I was going through my divorce and I had my kids full time for, the first probably 6 months I was going through my divorce, I had the kids the majority of the time. Every other weekend, I think Mark had him just while he was getting settled and in his new place. And, I had the privilege to not have to work, and I could be there for my kids 100% of the time. And I can be there every single sporting event and every single doctor's appointment and every single everything still to this day.
Yep.
Because of the choice that I make to not trade my freedom for a paycheck.
Yeah.
But that decision doesn't come lightly. That's a freaking hard decision, right? Like,
yeah. It didn't come quickly either.
Right.
Like,
so what happens next? So now we're sitting in the car.
I made the decision,
and you're
but
like,
I had to tell my wife about this decision.
Okay. So did you get fired? I mean, what happened? Did you quit?
I did get written up. I got written up, and I was told, even though I left for my child, I was told if I ever did that again, I could be fired. If I do it, they'd let me go.
Okay.
I went home, but I was ready to quit. I was totally ready to go. I was like, I got home. I'm a fiery guy, and I was telling my wife, like, screw them, I'm done. I quit.
That's what I would have been. I'm out of here.
And my wife's like, yeah, but we like to eat and stay warm, so maybe we shouldn't jump into this decision quickly, right? And I told my wife, I was like, I'm gonna figure something out. I want to do this, and I went to. I had a degree in education. I got a master's degree in teaching and curriculum. And I had prepared my whole career for this job. So I didn't really know what I was going to do. And I came up with all kinds of ideas. Like I told my wife, I wanted to be a handyman.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I really want to be a handyman. And my wife was like, yeah, but you're not very handy. And she was I was like, thank you for your brutal honesty and the hurt to my ego. But no, I'm glad she said that, because that would have been a disaster if I had tried that. But then one of my ideas was to, mow yards. Like I only made like $2,500 a month as a school teacher. Like that was my take home pay. And I thought, well, couldn't I mow yards? Like I could get 50 yards paying me $50 a month. That'd be $2,500, right? Like I could do that. And, but my wife was like, yeah, but we can't mow yards in the winter. Like, what are you going to do in the winter? And I'm like, touche, good point again. And, so I started just looking for businesses. I was like, I knew I wanted to start a business. I knew I had to have a business. I knew I had to do something if I wanted to work for myself. And that led me to podcasts. This was back in 2012. Podcasts were like new-ish and like not big.
Right.
Everybody's got a podcast now, Yeah. But it's the thing. But the podcast, I found this podcast called the Smart Passive Income Podcast.
Oh, Pat Flynn.
Yes.
Do you know that little side note, back in 2012, 2013, me and Pat actually did a duet at a conference.
What?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
On stage or something?
On stage it was when Frozen was out.
That's amazing.
And I think it was Let It Go when Frozen was out. So yeah, me and Pat go way back.
That's incredible.
I think I actually have it on video somewhere. I've got to pull that out.
You've got to send that to me, and I will text it to him and be like, yo,
I think
bro.
it was at it was like DigiCollab when Aaron Chase was running this conference.
I love Aaron Chase. I know Jocelyn and Aaron Chase are very good friends. That's amazing.
She was at FinCon as well. And
the FinCon people have all these stories. I'm so jealous of FinCon people, because you guys always have these epic hangout stories. And last year this is the first year I've ever been to FinCon. Yeah. So I was like, I feel like I'm a novice FinConer, and I need more great stories.
Me and Aaron were talking about this when we went to Korean karaoke this past year. We were part of the Korean karaoke crew.
That's incredible.
And so yeah, we did that. And so yeah, Pat has been around forever, but I started podcasting a year after that, because I had a podcast back with my ex-husband called the Simpler Happier Life podcast back then. So
there you go. I got you.
So okay, go ahead. So you start looking at podcasts.
I love tangents and rabbit holes.
I know, right? They're just fun.
That's what the podcast is.
Yeah.
I'm going to text him after this and be like, yo, bro, I heard you were singing Let It Go on stage with Lauren. But when I found Pat, though, this was really early in his journey. Like, I think he was only like 30. I don't remember, 30 or 40, maybe. I don't know. It was really early in his journey as a podcaster, right? Like maybe a year and a half. And I just the only reason I picked him was because I went to his website, and he had a picture of him holding his son. And our kids are the same age, basically. And I was like, well, this is for my son. I want to listen to a guy that cares about his kids, And he told the story of how he got fired as an architect, started a blog about passing the architecture exam. And a friend of his said, hey, you should make a study guide to help people pass that test, a PDF, put a PayPal button on your site, and let people buy that for you. Like, let them charge $20 for it. And if they give it to you, you email it to them. And he's like, you think that'll work? And he's like, yeah, give it a try. You don't know.
How simple
right?
things used to be.
I know. Yeah. So simple back then. And, but he had actually done a lot of content. So he had built some organic traffic. So he was getting traffic, and it was just, he wasn't selling anything. Now, about 2 weeks before this, I was really frustrated with all my, business ideas of lawn mowing and handymanning and all these things I thought about. And my wife and I were in a car, and we were going out to Muhlenberg County, Kentucky to visit her granddaddy. And out of nowhere, I thought back about that lawn mowing thing, like, yeah, 50 people, $50. And I thought about Jocelyn's salary, and I was like, well, wait a minute. She makes the same thing I do. We make about $5,000. And all of a sudden I just had this epiphany. I was like, what if I could get 100 people to give me $50? Like, that's it. Like, this is not complicated. Like, if I could solve a problem, and I could get 100 people every month to give us $50, we would replace both of our incomes. We could both quit our jobs, and we would be free. And I freaked out in the car. I was just, oh my gosh, you got to listen to this. This is a great idea. I've solved all of our problems, and I've got the solution. I was like, what if I just get 100 people to give us $50? There's 7 billion people on the planet. I only need 100 people to give me $50. That would replace our incomes. We quit our jobs. We could be self-employed. And my wife was like, that's math. That is not a plan. Like, what are you talking
like,
about?
So how are you going to get 100
yes,
people?
she's like, how are you going to do that? And I'm like, touche again. Like, I don't know, but like, that's why I have my wife, because she's like my brake when I've got the gas pedal. And then when I found Pat, when I heard him say this, I was like, wow, that's a really good idea. And then he talks about launching it. In the first month, he got 416 people, I think, paid him $19. He made $7,900 in a single month. And I about flipped that lawnmower upside down. I hit the gas on that thing, fishtailed it. I mean, it was ridiculous. I mean, I seriously about wrecked. And I was like, that's it. That's how I'm going to get 100 people to give me $50. I will create content that solves a problem, and I will serve people on the internet, and they will find me, and I will be able to make money. And I ran inside. I told Jocelyn this whole convoluted thing. I was like, listen, there's this architect, and he has a PDF, and he get people giving money, and we're going to make our living emailing people. And my wife was like, okay, well, that's more interesting than the math formula. But like,
I love the dynamic between the two of you.
Oh, right. Yeah, gas and brake. We're constantly spinning out in the parking lot.
I'm the gas, but I don't have a brake anymore. So that's the problem. Is
you and Jocelyn just need to talk together about once a week. She'll hit the brake for you.
I'm the person, like, just a little side note, because we just get on tangents, is I'm like, some days I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to rip up this carpet in my house, and then I'll figure out how to put a floor down later. Because I'm just
don't even know what you're replacing it with.
That's just me. I don't have a break anymore because I'm single. So, you know.
Listen, if I would be off so many cliffs if it was not for my wife, Jocelyn. Like, I am we have this little cartoon that we say encapsulates our entire relationship. It's this little stick man, and he's puking rainbows. And then this other stick man comes in and puts a helmet on the head, and it turns into a rainbow laser beam.
There you go.
That's us right there in a nutshell. That's how it all works.
I love it. And this is a great lesson, I think, when it comes to money management too, is that if you have those two different types of personalities, like being able to understand that you both bring something to the table. Yes. And both are amazing, but that you need to let the other person put the helmet on you.
Be led.
And
let yourself
the other
be
person
led.
Needs to be able to spew the rainbow too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like that there's something that both of you can offer.
You got to take the helmet off every once in a while.
Exactly.
And sometimes you got to turn that helmet's laser beam off every once in a while as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
And to help each other out that way. I think that's
what you don't want is, like, me and you would never be accountability partners for any situation.
No.
We should never do that, because like if you put and then the other two if you get another person like Jocelyn, don't put them together either, because it's either then there's no go or no stop whatsoever.
Right, exactly.
Everybody's off the cliff.
If we were accountability partners, we need like Jocelyn in the middle to be like, you do this, you do that.
Exactly.
You stop.
Hashtag better together. Let's just leave it at that, guys. Hashtag better together. What was I talking about? Oh,
I don't even remember. Okay, so
we were in the kitchen.
Yeah, you're in the kitchen.
So I was determined at that point, like, okay, online business is the way, right? I got to figure this out. So I started the classic try everything, mud on the wall, learn to do a website, learn to do a sales funnel, emails, opt-ins, like all the things. And I just failed horrifically, like miserably, because I was doing it alone. Jocelyn wasn't on board yet. Right. And but I did learn so many skills through those like 3, 4, 5 months of just trying everything. Didn't make any money, had no money whatsoever. But my mission at that time was not to build a successful online business. It was to learn as much as I could and get something to produce income. I needed something to produce money because I knew that Jocelyn, my spouse, would not be on board until I proved it to them, which is a very wise lesson if you're trying anything. Like, you got to do it. You can't convince your spouse. You got to prove it to your spouse. Right. And but I almost gave up. I really did. I almost failed. I almost stopped. I was trying for months, and I had gotten into at the time affiliates and like Google ads, and I was trying to create content, get traffic, and get people to click something just to give me some money. At that point, I wasn't ready to create a product yet. And nothing was happening. And every day I would log in and be a zero. And every day I'd log in, there'd be no money in the AdSense account. And every day, no affiliates from Amazon. It's just happened over and over. And one night I was just frustrated. And I slammed my computer. It was like late at night. Jocelyn was reading a book, all calm and not stressed out. And I'm over here freaking out. And I just shut the thing and I went to the bathroom and like, I was just get ready for bed. And I started brushing my teeth in the dark. Like, I was so depressed that I was like, I just don't even deserve light right now. Like, I was just so mad at myself. And I was like, and that being in that dark bathroom, it really made me think about Isaac again. And it made me think about my son and what started this journey. And I really just felt like I was failing him because I couldn't figure this out. And I prayed. I looked up and I said, God, is this real? Like, I have been bashing my head against this keyboard for months and I have not made a dime. And is that Pat Flynn guy lying to me? Like, he sounds honest. He's such a good dude. Like, why is this not working for me? And it worked for him. And I was like, just give me a sign. I'm like, I'm going to fork in the road. I've been on this railroad track to retirement. If I want me to stay here, I'll stay here. If you don't, let me go the other way and I'll just figure something out, but show me something, because I can't do this anymore. And I went back to my bed, and right before I went to sleep, I was like, I'm going to check my stats one more time. You ever done that late at night? Been like, one more time, see if we made some money. And when I hit refresh on the screen, there was a 0 when I hit refresh. And when I came back, there was 11 cents. Like, somebody had clicked an ad. There was a dime and a penny. And I'm like, if that ain't the good Lord's providence right there, man. And but it could have been $11 million. I just started like going crazy. And I showed Jocelyn, and what she said next changed our life forever. She kind of tilted her head, and she looked up at me and said, what else can we do? And that's when we started, like, she started looking. I gave her the Cliff Notes version of everything I'd learned. And she was like, oh, well, he had a product, Shane. That's the difference. And he was more niched down. That's the difference. And I was like, that's right. So we started 2 websites. We started elementarylibrarian.com, where we created lesson plans for librarians in elementary schools. And then we started another website called coachxo.com, where I made playbooks for football coaches. We leaned into what we already knew, our God-given skills, talents, passions, experiences, and we created this. Jocelyn started blogging. After about 2 or 3 months, she had built a little baby email list of about 250 people. And let's see, what was it? August of 2012, we sent an email out to those people, and we said, hey, if we make lesson plans for you and a membership, and we give you August, September, October, November, would you pay $50 a month for it? And but we didn't just ask them. We sent the button to give us money. We sent the link. And the first email, we created $2,500 in income for that little list, which was our salary. It was it. That was it. And it was off to the races at that point. We just started making money every single month. And like, it was like 2,500, then 3,500. Then in November, it was like over 5,000. Like, we had replaced our income, and we were like, yeah, but security gland, keep your job. And we kept like, is this going to keep going? And it just kept growing all that first year. And in July of 2013, we made $15,000 in a single month. In August, we made $36,000, which was one of our salaries. And that was the moment that we were like, we prepared for this. We made some sacrifices to get to make this decision this early in our journey. But we said, hey, if we can do this part-time, what can we do full-time? And on September 27th, 2013, in the same office, my boss told me, no, we quit our jobs. And I will never forget that moment, because my boss goes, how long you been teaching? And I'm like, yeah, it's my 10th year. Like, I had tenure, and he goes, how long you been teaching? 10 years. And he goes, you're going to give up all that retirement, 10 years of retirement? And I'm like, bro, there's 17 and a half years left. Yes, let it go. I got 17. I'm not going to wait 17 to get the 10. And but that mentality like just broke through in that conversation of, don't give up what you've already earned. But we've been self-employed ever since, online business
So how
owners.
long did it take you from that moment of the daycare to when you quit your job?
From the moment of the daycare, it was probably about 18 or 19 months.
Okay.
It was a year from launching. It took us 6 months, 7 months to figure out the idea that would work after some trial and error. And then it took us about a year to really feel like, let's go for it. Let's make this happen. Yeah.
Wow. So there's two things I want to point out here that are amazing to me. First of all, you didn't give up, and that you hung on for those like 18 months, because I think a lot of people would have given up. And number two, one thing I wanted to point out is this whole like mentality shift, right? We need to like stick with the idea that we need to stick with it and stick with our retirement and stick with the plan and safety. And this isn't going to work. And we need to do this and we need to do that. And, that whole mentality is so foreign to people that like
crippling.
We don't have, like, people are like, what are you going to do if it doesn't work? And I'm like, well, I've been doing this for 12 years and it's always worked. What are you going to do if you get fired?
Yeah. You have one person that gives you money. I have hundreds.
Exactly. And you know what? If it doesn't work, I know how to build it again.
Yeah. Do something else. My friend, Jessica LaRue, she says, if this wave goes away, I'll swim back out and find a new wave.
Exactly.
Right. And my dad, he's like in his 70s. I love my dad, man. He's so wise. But like when we were doing this, I quit my job. Like my dad was so confused, and he was like, what are you going to do if this internet thing doesn't work out? And I'm like, well, I mean, I'll do something else. He goes, no. What are you going to do if they shut down the internet? I'm like, Dad, if the internet goes off, bro, I'm telling you right now, we're all in bad trouble. Like, this is way worse than COVID. You know what I mean? Like, wow. And my mom, though, like she was really mad, really mad at me. That mentality. She cornered me in her kitchen one day. Like, she's got one of those old school kitchens that go around like a corner, and the fridge is like in the back. Like if there's ever a fire at the stove, you're dead because there's no way out of that back corner. And she had me pinned back there with her finger in my face, and she was like, Shane Sams, you've got babies, you've got a wife, you have lost your mind, son. You have flipped out. I cannot believe that you have done this. And then she walked away, and she didn't understand it. And that's actually how we named the podcast, though. That's why it's called Flipped Lifestyle, because my mom's like, you flipped out. And I'm like, we have flipped out in a good way. Like, we have flipped our life upside down. This is amazing. We need to help other people do this.
I love that.
Yeah. But I don't blame people for this mentality, especially looking back at my own story, because Lauren, we're not taught this.
No.
We are not taught this. Like, if you think about go to school, everybody tells you if you start something, you never quit it, even if it's not right for you. You never stop. You do what you're supposed to do. You stay the course for all 4 years of your high school career in a sport. No, like if it's not right for you, you shouldn't do that. And when we go to college, if besides doctor and lawyer, no one is taught they're allowed to make $100,000 a year or more. Nobody. 80% of careers that you can apply for at a major in a major university are under $100,000 a year jobs. So that mentality of, no, you go get a job. Someone else gives you a salary, and there is a ceiling. Like, hey, if you get to 80, 100 grand, you're gold. You're one of the lucky ones. Bullcrap. You can go farther than that. And until you do it, you don't realize it's possible, because nobody taught us that growing up. And I think that's why so many entrepreneurs have a fear of success, is we are not when you get to a place where you're like, is that possible? Like in August of 2014, that was the first year we ever made over 100 grand in a month. Right. And that was really what broke the 4-minute mile for me. I was like, you can do this? Well, I can do in a month what they told me was not even possible in a year. Like, how is that even possible? And then like, that's really what broke it for me. Like, anything's possible, right, if I want to put in the sacrifice of time and treasure to do it. Yeah. And I wish that we taught kids. I'm trying to teach my kids that, like, you can listen, if you want to make 50 grand a year, do it. If you want to make 50 million, go do it. Like, it's all possible if you just get out there and do it. And if we can reprogram some of our kids, I think that mentality can go away a little bit. If we can fight it, what's being taught in schools.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. If you started 2022 with more debt than you'd like to have, you're not alone. Debt.com is here to help. Whether you still have holiday credit card debt to pay off, or student loan payments are starting to build up again. Maybe you even have debt collectors that are hounding you for payments you just can't make. The experts at Debt.com can help. Finally, one website can help you solve your debt problems. Credit cards, back taxes, student loans, medical debt, collections, you name it, Debt.com can help you solve it. And they do it with no judgments, because they understand that when people end up in debt, it's usually for things outside their control, like job loss or divorce or some other hardship. So if you're in debt, visit laurengrutman.com/debt to get the relief you need, or call 888-431-2044 to get a free consultation with a debt relief specialist. Find solutions to get out of debt, fix your credit, and get on the path to achieving your financial goals. When life happens, visit debt.com. And I want to jump right back in, Shane, to that mentality that you were talking about, with entrepreneurship, but also with just life, of people being okay with being stuck where they're at. So often, and, I've been teaching personal finance for 12 years, and I got to be honest, I'm kind of sick of teaching personal finance. And that's kind of why I wanted to start this show. We need to be having different money conversations, because it's not just about, this is the budget and this is what you do and this is how you save. It's like, no. Like, we need to start having different money conversations about, are you really okay with being stuck in this 9 to 5 when you hate your life and you are told that you have 17 and a half years left to get retirement, when you wake up and you want to just jump off a cliff every day? Like, is that the life that you want to be living? And even like, I was having this conversation with somebody actually on Instagram the other day, and she was talking about the whole FIRE movement. And people that are listening that aren't aware of what the FIRE movement is, the FIRE movement is like this whole super radical, like, get rich, like as much money as you can right now so that you can retire super early and like not have to work the rest of your life. And I'm just like kind of sitting here like, well, I kind of sort of feel retired. Like, I can do whatever I want whenever I want now. And I can
keep making money and keep doing things you love.
So, and I don't want to be retired because I love what I do. So why would I work my tail off right now and sacrifice my kids at this age?
Yes. That's a hangover though, from that mentality. Like, because what are we taught our whole life?
Work hard,
get to retirement, take it easy at that point. So now people have confused that. And I'm not bashing anybody if you're fired and fine and all that stuff, but like, they've confused that into that's the goal. And I actually fell into this trap a little bit, because like our first businesses, like 4-hour work week stuff, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Read that, got there. It's like, okay, we're making great money. We're kind of passive income, but it was boring and it was depressing and it wasn't good. And now it's like, why is retirement the goal? We were taught that was the goal in high school, like get your watch and go retire. Right. But like the goal is actually, can I find something so meaningful and fulfilling and so flexible and malleable that I can let it evolve with my life, that I want to do it 50 hours a week, that I want to get lit up by it, and I want to be able to grow and make income. And that's kind of where we are now, is we've lost this mentality. There's two mentalities we've kind of dropped. Number one, I don't even know what retirement means. I don't even know what that means anymore. I'm done with it. I'm not chasing it. It's too far away. I might not even be alive by then. So whatever. I'm going to enjoy my life now. The second thing is, like, I think we're all taught, don't give up what you've already worked so hard to build, because you might not get it back, or you might not do this, or you might not do that. And it's this risk averse life, right? That we all want. We want the railroad track instead of the highway, and we have pivoted our business multiple times since then. Like, we sold Elementary Librarian. We don't even do that anymore. Right. The football coaching stuff, I just shut that down because I completely lost my passion for football once I wasn't coaching it anymore. And we have found this flipped lifestyle has become this movement, this community of these family focused entrepreneurs that really draws my love and my attention. And right now that's great, but that's even changed. Like, as we've grown, we used to be like, okay, we're Shane and Jocelyn. We're the most accessible country people you ever met in your life. Come on down, y'all. You know what I mean? And like, but as we got bigger and bigger, our village turned into a city, and then our city turned into a country, and then it's all these things. So that, like, we stepped back out of some of the places and put coaches in there. Right. And like, cause now I get lit up by this, talking to people like you, connecting, bringing you, like, you've been on my podcast, like, to my audience, and like helping people find the people they should be following. Like that's what lights me up. So I removed myself from everything, because I'm not attached to what I've already built. I'm not afraid to lose what I've already built. I'm ready to let go and then move back. Like take the money thing, for example. Like even in our first part of our journey, when we started making the money online, we said, hey, it was about May of 2013, I guess. I looked over at Jocelyn and I said, look, this is going to grow. It may not, but it's going to grow. But we have a chance to quit our jobs. And my wife's like 2015 or 16. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it right now. She's like, our bills are this. I don't want to take a chance. I don't want to lose that. I'm like, right, you're right. I kind of fell into that mentality. But then I was like, well, wait a minute. Who says we can't change the math formula just like we did with the income? And we started looking at it and I was like, well, how would you feel if our mortgage was like $500 cheaper? Would that change the equation? Could we change the equation instead of the variables, the whole formula? And she's like, yeah, I'd probably feel safer if we did that. I'm like, all right, let's sell our house. And that was when I told people I was selling my house, it was like, are you guys getting divorced? Are you guys having trouble? Like, did you sell drugs at school and you're losing your job? Like people were freaking out when we told them we were selling our house. Cause we were like, no, you get a house and you keep it 30 years and you retire in that house. You die there and you're bed with hospice. Like that's what people tell you. But we did. We sold our house. We moved into it. We had a brand new 2,400 square foot house with an above ground pool, all that stuff. We moved into this little house that was built in the 30s, remodeled in the 70s, and still had the cabinets. But it was less square footage, but it was less money per month. And that's what allowed us that move to quit our job. We had the check mark in the stock market down. But then 3 years later, we bought a 4,800 square foot house with 40 acres and a private lake. So it's like we made that little sacrifice now to go farther later. But if we had been so attached to the American dream that we have worked so hard to build, I didn't know we were going to have the house we have now. Like this could have failed. This could have done that. But if you let that go, you lose that mentality. You lose that fear because you can rebuild anything back from the ashes. And it might even be something that you never dreamed of and you get something better.
And that's, but like letting go of that letting go of that and being willing to let go of that. Like that's what I find is the hardest thing in teaching people personal finance.
I just learned something amazing I'm going to share with you.
Okay. Yes.
I'm very excited. Right. I was at a mindset retreat last week and I know how to know the difference now when you're doing this the wrong way. So we were doing these things and I was doing this exercise with like a counselor. And I was like, yeah, but I should do this and I should do that. And she said to me something, I wrote this down immediately. If you say out loud, I should or shouldn't do something, you are saying someone else's ideas.
Ooh, that's good.
If you say, I want to do this, even if there's risk, you're saying that that's what you actually believe and want. And I looked back and I think that's what people do. Like, gosh, I just got this house. I shouldn't sell this house. I made it this far. No, that's someone else telling you what your American dream is. Or I shouldn't take less pay in my online business and quit my safe salary. Or I shouldn't give up health insurance. Oh my gosh, I could never go buy health. Like when you're saying I shouldn't, it's probably programming either from parents, peers, or even entrepreneurs that you follow. Like my mastermind, we've actually adopted this now. I wrote something this morning and someone said, you should do that or you want to do that. Like, is it something you actually want or is it should? Is it programming? And I think if more people would listen and say, I shouldn't give up this job right now. The economy's not good enough. Whoa. That's probably somebody else has programmed into you what you should do. And maybe, just maybe, you should push that aside for a minute and say, do I actually want to do this? That's the correct answer. Because
that is that is mind blowing.
Mind blowing. I fell off the bed when we were sitting on a bed talking to each other, and I was like, "Oh!" and I just fell off the bed. I was like, "Dead."
That's amazing because and I have a friend of mine that always says you should yourself, Lauren. Like stop shoulding yourself because then you're putting shame on yourself that this is what you should be doing, but is that really what you want to be doing or you think you should be doing? And that's so true. That's so true because
that's programming from other people.
It's what you think that other people expect you to do or the programming from your childhood. And so if you're staying in this job because that's what you should be doing or you don't know what else you could be doing and that's amazing.
And there's value there. I don't want to say there's no value in it. Like that's another thing you have to be careful with because we're such a bipolar world now that everything is yes or no, period. Right. the should comes from a good place. People are trying to help and protect you. That the should comes from a good place. The should comes from a place where that person has found some safety and security and wants it for you. And wisdom is usually passed through shoulds, right? Like, you should do this, you should do that. But you also then have to balance it with your life. Like, this is your life, and what you want is really important too. And you can keep some of the should if you think it's valuable, but if some of the should is holding you back, you should let it go. You should let that go. So don't think I'm saying like, I'm so glad that my parents told me you should do this, you should do that. Like, I went to college, I got a teaching degree. It ended up being an online business that made millions.
Right.
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
There's value there, but I think now I'm definitely leaning toward 80% Shane wants, 20% shoulds at this point.
You learn over time that also that wisdom is passed through other people's fears and insecurities too. That's also a thing. Like, people are afraid of taking that chance for themselves. So because of their own fear and anxiety, they pass that on through you, through shoulds. I mean, there's so many times so I live in like a really small town, and it's not a wealthy town. It's probably more of like a lower social economic town.
So, what state are you in?
I'm in New York, and it's like this little town called Oswego, New York, right outside of Syracuse. And so, like, people here have absolutely no idea what I do. I have gotten so many times, like, people think I live off of child support, like.
That's the narrative that they know.
That's the narrative. Like,
it's the same thing in Southeast Kentucky.
Mark and I do not do child support. Like, we both make good money. We don't do child support. We support our kids when they're in our own homes, and we split everything using Venmo. So, like, if I pay for dance, he Venmos me half of it, and that's just how we do things.
That's the way it works. Yeah, but people don't know. They just don't know.
They just don't know. But I've gotten that so many times. Like, so, like, you must get paid a lot, and I'm like, people have absolutely no idea that I run like a very successful online business, like,
and work from home, and before COVID, even
they don't even know. They see me like camping with my kids in the summer, because I take summers off. I don't work during the summer.
But they have to construct a narrative that they can understand, and that's what's really hard for people, because until you see other narrative, like, you don't really like know those things. Same thing too. I swear my mom still thinks I sell drugs. I don't, she does not. I found out there for about a year, she was telling people that we build websites. That's what and I was like, you know what, Mom, that's close enough. Yeah. I'm good with that. And until you can reconstruct your own narrative, until you can see some other examples of people like doing things, like, you're not going to, but also too, like that there's another piece of advice I got from a buddy of mine, we both know Grant Baldwin. He's a mastermind guy. And like, when we sold our business, we sold it on a contract for 1.1 million. And like, I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't even know how to spell that. Right. Like, I don't know how to write that down. And we were in our mastermind, and I was like talking to people, and Grant said something very interesting to me. I think he got this from somebody else. He said, I know we're talking about this here, and it's really cool, and we're really cool to talk about it, but like, none of us have done this. And he's like, I don't think you should take advice about what to do with $1 million from people who have never sold a company for $1 million. Like, you've got to find people that have done that. Right. It's like taking like it's funny. My dad and my mom always used to give me real estate advice. Right. My mom and dad moved into a house when they got married, and like, my mom was like 16 or something. They moved into a house behind her mother's house and lived there till now. And like, literally, the grandfather sold them a house for a great deal. Like, and like, it always were giving me real estate advice. And I'm like, and I looked up one day, and I was like listening to him, and I was like, I thought to myself, like, I have bought and sold 10 houses. I love this advice. He gives me so much great wisdom, but like, you can't take real estate advice from someone who's never bought and sold a house.
Yep.
But that's what we do. Like, they don't, like, people could have to reframe it into their context, and they don't seek it. That's what the difference between entrepreneurs too is. Entrepreneurs don't seek out opportunity. They seek out mentorships, and they seek out relationships, and they glean the actual wisdom from people who have done things. Yep. And that's where the real value like comes in. So when other people say that, like, you sell drugs, what do you do? I don't know. Like I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. I just sell drugs. Don't worry about it. I'll try to think of a better way to explain this. I live off child support. Yeah, child support. That's the way it works. So.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Yeah. I call it conditioning, the conditioning of our brain from childbirth, right? We're all conditioned.
So one of the workers there, she called it the all-American trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a fascinating way to frame it, because my story is like, played football, got hurt, went to school, got a wife, like she's like, yeah, that's the all-American trauma. Like, it's just baked in. This is all you can be. This is all you can do. And you're going to hit the railroad track, and then you're going to retire and die.
Yep.
And it's that all-American trauma. And we got to break free from it, man.
Got to break free from it. And the thought process of, the way that we as entrepreneurs think, I wasn't born to think this way. It's right. Kind of like once you see the possibility of not trading your future for what you can have now, and
for this 2-week period,
right? Like you had to make that choice, like either your son or your job. And that, I'm sure that there are many people listening today that have had that decision. I know a lot of single moms that are, and a lot of parents that have had to make those tough choices of like, I have to go to work and my son or my kid is sick and I have to drop them off at the babysitter anyway. Yeah. Or if I know, especially during COVID, I had a lot of friends that actually had to quit their jobs because they didn't have any other option, because their kids were home from school, and they took a huge pay cut and they had to move out of their houses and sell their homes. Like, I know people personally that have had to do that.
And they deserve as much respect as the entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. I mean, I talked to a guy yesterday in our community, and during COVID, he ran a party planning and event business. Well, those didn't work for a year, and he had to become a plumber. He had to go and be an apprentice and learn how to be a plumber. And now he's moving back into something else. But like, it still always comes down to this. In life, you're faced with, we call them choices, but that's not really what they are. They're actually catalysts. Mm-hmm. And you can snuff that catalyst out, or you can let it kind of like set you on fire. And like, there's two kinds of catalysts. There's the catalyst that you run away from, and there's the catalyst that you run toward. And the one, like, I ran away from a catalyst. I was at a breaking point and I had something happen in my life. But there's also dreams that you can run toward. Like, the first person we ever helped with online business, her name was Lindsay. And she came to us after she was the one person in our life that was like, wow, you're not selling drugs. You're actually doing something productive for society.
Right.
And this was before Flipped Lifestyle. And she's like, I am at the breaking point where I want to be with my children. I want to homeschool. Do you think I could do what you guys are doing so I could run toward that catalyst, like that desire? And they were like, sure. So we showed her how. And 3 or 4 months later, she quit her job and she's never went back to work, and she's homeschooled her kids ever since. And it's like it's the acting on those catalysts, whether it's running toward or from, that let you break free from that, the bad stuff, the shoulds, right. And lose that fear, because the thing you're afraid of or the thing you want becomes more powerful than the should. Mm-hmm. And I think some people want it, but not enough. I think some people hurt, but not enough. And I think like the catalyst works, the door swings both ways. You either go be the plumber for a while and then you chase your dream, or you say, screw it, I'm going to go do something else, and I'm going to build a business, and I'm going to take control of my life this way. But either way, just act on the catalyst. Act on the catalyst. Don't be afraid of losing what you've already worked so hard to build, because there's a lot of other stuff out there that would probably serve you better if you just go chase it.
Right. I think what keeps people stuck, though, is fear of regret, of like, if I don't do, if I do and make this decision and it doesn't work out, then I'm just going to have given up all of that retirement, all of that. And I'm going to just beat myself bloody. And then what am I going to do? Yeah. And that whole fear of regret keeps them stuck.
We play a game with that, me and Jocelyn. It's called the tornado game. And maybe this is because I live around.
Oh my gosh. Okay, keep going. But
I live around a lot of trailer parks. So like tornadoes are a big thing around here, and, but it's like, what would happen, like if we did this and it was as bad as a tornado coming through a territory, like it just destroyed everything. And at the end of it, you're looking back and everything is just scorched earth, but you're still alive. Right. Mm-hmm. Well, for one thing, you can get a new trailer. Like everything's reversible. Like everything is pretty much reversible, but death. Right. Mm-hmm. So we play that game to fight that regret sometimes, like of what if we fail, or like, what if you do, you'll just do something else and go back to the other thing. And if you look back at your life, you probably found a lot of those failures where you just rebuilt, and that was fine. So why not do the thing? It's not what if it doesn't work, it's what if it does. Like that's the crazy part on that side of the equation.
Right. So in closing, at the end of this, like the hard money decision that you had to make turned into something amazing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So people that are listening to this, that are at those crossroads where they would love to make the same kind of hard money choice, where they are trying to figure out how to do it, like what kind of advice would you give them on the next step? I mean, obviously I would love people to check out Flip Lifestyle, because what you're doing is amazing with your community and, teaching people how to do it. So what do you think their next steps are with that? And then in closing, like where can people find you online too?
Sure. I think what the biggest lesson that works for me, I'm not going to tell you should do anything, because
don't should.
I'm not going to should you. I think the biggest thing that I have learned is nothing happens when you're standing still. Like if I had just sat in my chair in that office that day, or if Lindsay had that idea and never walked forward and asked us, like what would her look like, so don't just sit still. Like you have to go put yourself in the right place if you want to be in the right place at the right time. And, and that's what I try to do every day, is just today, the right place to be is on Lauren's podcast. Like this is where I want to put myself today, and we'll just see what happens. And then I'm not worried about the outcome. You got to be outcome independent. Like you got to chase opportunity, not outcome. And I think if you do that enough, and I know that in our life we have done that enough, where good things keep happening. They're not going to come to you. It's not Field of Dreams. It's not Kevin Costner. Like I'm just going to wait for the baseball player ghost to show up, right? Like you got to go out and do it, right? And so that's what I would tell everybody to do. And if you feel like something like online business would be good for you, that's what we talk about over at flippedlifestyle.com. So we talk about on the Shane Sam Show. Go check out my podcast with Lauren. And every week we just help people start, build, and grow online businesses there and over in our community. Our community is a very family-focused group of people. It's a membership site where you can learn how to do what we do. And you can actually start for free at flippedlifestyle.com/free. We have a 30-day trial if you want to give it a shot. No regrets, nothing to lose. You can try out everything we do over there.
I love that. And I love that it's family-focused. And I think one thing that people are like, well, what would I talk about? If I wanted to do an online business. And that's a perfect example of what you shared, was do what you're doing now,
Yeah. What are you doing? Everyone has a love, everyone has knowledge, and everyone has experience.
Yep.
And all of those things can be an online business.
That's what I was talking to my son about. He's 16. And I was like, why don't you start? Because he loves building keyboards from scratch. He'll buy everything on Amazon and do them to like match, his mouse and his keyboard and his backdrop and everything. I'm like, why don't you start an online business, with that, teaching people how to build custom keyboards? And he's like,
sure. My son would watch that every minute of it. Like he's into that. He's got this white space bar on his black keyboard.
Yeah.
Now, right?
So
like he would geek out over something
right. Like
that,
a new, like a membership where he for $30 a month, he teaches people how to build a new keyboard every month.
Yeah. And parents would sign their kid up for like whatever, you know what I'm saying? And they could, they're learning skills. It's amazing.
Exactly. Like that's brilliant. So I'm always trying to pass this on to my kids too, that I don't want my kids to ever feel like they're stuck in a financial situation. And I don't want any of my listeners or my readers or anything like that to feel stuck, especially when it comes to their children, that they have to ever choose a job or money over their kids.
Yeah. And if you ever feel stuck, that's what it is. It's a feeling, because you're not.
Yeah. But you're not. So, you're never stuck. We can always make a decision, but you have to make that decision and take that first step, and that's honestly probably the scariest step, is making that first step. So, well, this has been so fun. Like, you're awesome.
You're awesome. No, you are awesome for having me here. It's amazing. Yeah. No,
seriously. So I'm like just so blessed to have you on the show today. And I know everybody else was blessed listening to you. And so I appreciate you. And thanks again, Shane.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for having me here.
Okay. Thank you so much, Shane, for being on the show. I know that episode blessed me a lot. I'm so grateful for you continuously sharing your story about the hard money decision that you had to make to quit your job. And I know, as a part of your community, I'm a part of your community because I absolutely love what you and Jocelyn are doing, but you're changing people's lives. And I am so grateful that through all of the life changes that I've been through since starting my website back in 2009, that I've never had to make those really hard decisions of choosing a job over children. And I know a lot of people during the pandemic that had to quit their jobs to take care of their kids because their kids were out of school. And there's always this hope in this option if people just give it a shot. And so I definitely recommend that people check out your community. You can find all of the things that we talked about over at laurengrootman.com/podcast and find all the show notes and links to Shane and Jocelyn's community and all the things that we talked about today. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode, and we'll see you next week. Bye.